My father taught the subject for 30 years as a dean of the University of San Jose Recoletos College of Law. And I think that was one of the reasons and why when he managed the court, he based his principles on ethical standards. And more so, more than ever, there's need for us to professionalize the legal profession, improve the standard. Besides what you have already proposed, for those who intend to become members of the bar, for those who are already members of the bar, what do you propose? And what is something that you feel that the IBP should look into in order to improve the moral fiber of the legal profession?
Number one, Your Honor, let us place greater stress on the pre-judicature program. Okay. It seems to me that we have forgotten this. The Commission, the Court of Appeals nominees do not take the pre-judicature program, but I did. I went through the pre-judicature, and I think this should be expanded. And this will open the awareness of our lawyers that out here is a career possibility that should be attended to, that should be open to us. Because in law school, we take up all subjects, and that does not really open the possibilities to you. But after law school, with PhilJA, I think that is the time. And the pre-judicature should be wider and should be graded. Perhaps there should be periodical exams in the course of the career of a judge. If the PhilJA gives seminars, seminars should have exams. And in relation with this, ma'am, I mentioned this because I am into this already, in the topic already. If I were to be Chief Justice, in terms of the JBC, the Constitution says that the court can assign you additional duties, and I will. I will give the JBC charge, or I will include the JBC in the performance assessment of our judges, because this will go towards professionalism. I would like to see a judiciary where you rise through merits, and this is one of the ways of doing this. Of course, the IBP will always be there, and if I were to be Chief Justice, I was chapter president of the IBP in the 80s during the time of Senator Rene Cayetano. And I am aware of the dynamics at the IBP, and I would hope that the court will have closer cooperation and coordination with the IBP. In fact, to the point perhaps that they will be one of the partners of the court. Siguro po parang nakakabatang kapatid.
Maraming salamat po. Actually, I was hoping the other way around. You mentioned that you would want the JBC to be a partner of the court in assessing the performance of the judges. But I was thinking of having the court inform us of the performance of the judges so that we can best determine whether they should be up for promotion. But since I guess it's a partnership, so I think it's something that's workable. And we do put a premium on the pre-judicature program. In fact, we make it a point to, in fact, check whether an applicant has acquired a grade that is above the cutoff or below the cutoff. Because we cannot presume that everyone who took up the pre-judicature program has actually taken it and validly passed. So I am actually challenged by the fact that you have taken the pre-judicature, and maybe we should make time to understand what the prejudicature program is so that we know what we are imposing on our applicants. Thank you, Justice. Which brings me...
May I just round off my discussion on the performance appraisal
Please
by
do.
the JBC? What I have in mind, because right now we have an internal audit office in the court. And sad to state, this internal audit office is not performing its job. Because what is intended is a management performance, not a financial performance. We have the Commission on Audit for the financial audit, but what I have in mind is the internal audit office to do the auditing together with the internal audit offices of the appellate courts, and then for the lower courts, it would be the OCA, and they would be reporting to you. They would be reporting to you so that the JBC can coordinate the performance appraisals of judges and justices up to the appellate court.
It's funny that you made mention of the prejudicature because one of the questions that I meant to ask is, what is your vision for the Philippine Judicial Academy that conducts the prejudicature program?
My total vision, Your Honor, is not only the kind of institution that it is today. Perhaps we can have in the future a degree-granting institution. This can be the subject, they can be the focal point of masteral programs for those going to the public service in the judiciary. That's far off, I know, but at least it should be part of our dream.
Moving on to something that is closely related to the PhilJA is the Philippine Mediation Center. What are your thoughts on mediation and how effective is this in decongesting our court dockets?
Ma'am, you know, I came from the Department of Labor, where we have an NCMB, National Conciliation and Mediation Board. And it has been very, very successful in reducing our caseload, in reducing the incidence of strikes. When I left the Department of Labor, we only had a record of 6 strikes for 1 year. Remember that in the late 80s, we had 580 plus strikes in 1 year. And one of the centers of strikes was Cebu. And this was reduced to 6. So I am a believer in conciliation, in mediation. When I was at the Court of Appeals, when the subject was first broached, I was quite skeptical. I told them, bakit makikipag-areglo yung mga yan? May nanalo na, may natalo na. But I submitted my quota of 20 cases that should be conciliated. To my surprise, 12 of these cases were settled. Kaya sabi ko, dapat yung conciliation and mediation ma-institutionalize dito sa judiciary. Not as a small office in the PhilJA, but as a separate office like the NCMB in the Department of Labor. I am sure this will significantly reduce our caseload. And of course, let us not forget arbitration, because arbitration is another effective tool that we can make use of. And I would allow arbitration and mediation even at the level of the Supreme Court if the parties so desire. I have no problem with that.
Yes, because I believe that one of the problems with the PMC is the funding, because it relies heavily on the funding from the PhilJA. So if nothing is allocated, then the PMC does not have any funds to work with. And in fact, that is a reason why the supervisors in the PMC units nationwide are not even regular employees of the court. So, you know, it makes there's some instability in the structure And we would welcome having a separate PMC, Philippine Mediation Center, as a separate unit within the court, and that's good to hear. There's something also close to your heart, which I believe has been in the news lately with respect to the Judicial Reform Program and the Program Management Office and the World Bank Fund. Would you care to shed light on the status of the program and the PMO?
Well, our program with the World Bank just finished. It finished on June 30 of this year. And there are still things to be undertaken. So perhaps in the near future, there will be efforts to sit down with the World Bank. But the World Bank is not the only funding agency that we have. We have the Abaroli, and I am now into discussions with the Abaroli on for seminars for judges on corporate rehabilitation. We have also the ADB. We have various seminars. We have SIDA from Canada. And I think we should take advantage of whatever assistance may come our way, subject to one condition. There should never be intrusion into Philippine government affairs. This is, if I become Chief Justice, I will tell people offhand that I don't want any intrusion. In Abaroli, for example, we had discussions before about the dissemination. When I thought my whistleblowing project would be approved, I had discussions with them, and but I made that distinction very, very clear. The whistleblowing rule, by the way, is one that I will immediately try to activate when I get to be Chief Justice.
Thank you, Justice. My last question. Going over the 2010 audit report of the Supreme Court, it showed that there were several cases of non-remittance, of failure to declare collections in the lower courts. How has this problem been addressed, especially since it actually affects the credibility of the court and the efficiency of our collection of fees?
We have been quite strict about this because this is a money matter, and we cannot bend over backwards on money matters. I believe that there have been some dismissals. I'm not sure of the title of the case, but some dismissals of clerks of court for non-remittance. This is a problem for the clerks of court, and I think one of the problem is they may be trained in law, but they are not trained in accountancy or in bookkeeping. So my heart goes out to them, and we should try to look deeper into the problem because it's costing them their career.
Thank you, Justice. I actually appreciate the fact that you want to involve the JBC in many aspects of the Supreme Court, and I hope that even if you don't become Chief Justice, and more so if you become Chief Justice, that you would also consider us as a partner in other endeavors towards the improvement of administration of justice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Justice Brion.
Attorney Mejia is next.
Thank you, Justice Peralta. Good afternoon, Justice Brion. Siguro po I should have mentioned this earlier when Justice Abad came here to be interviewed. We appreciate po the fact that the incumbent justices have more than willingly agreed to go through this process. In fact, even the testing and all that. And so let me start with a I was looking at your PDS, Justice Brion, and I was just curious, ang undergrad po pala ninyo ay math and engineering? If you are to advise someone po who wants to take up or pursue a career in law, what will you advise him as the ideal course, as a preparatory law course?
It's a mixture of mathematics and philosophy would be best. Why mathematics? Because of the logic that is inherent in mathematics. And why philosophy? Because philosophy is that science that teaches us about thinking in the areas that the judiciary dwells in, logic, morals, all these things. And but math is, I think, is very important because you get to be very precise. And what you observe is the trait that runs through our family. My wife is a chemist lawyer. My son is a computer engineer lawyer.
A bit related to that, and also related to what you mentioned earlier about incorporating ethics into the other law subjects. Brother Armin Luistro made a statement, or I think wants to introduce a policy whereby he will introduce the teaching of law even in the elementary level. What do you say to that?
I have no problem with that, Your Honor, especially if he will include ethics and values, because ethics and values is something that even antedates the elementary grades. Ethics and values should start at the home. So if not in the home, it should be in the school. If we are too late now, it should at least start at the law school. But taking up law in the elementary grades, this is part of social studies and civics. And this was how I got interested into law. I get drawn into law. But can I comment about your earlier statement about being glad that we did not ask for any exception to these proceedings?
Opo.
On the contrary, Your Honor, when we were discussing, we said this would be a wonderful opportunity for those who will be nominated and who will appear before the JBC to enlighten the public about the Supreme Court, because that's what we do not have in the past. The court speaks only through its decisions. That's the firm belief that we have. And now, here comes this golden opportunity. Tatanungin nyo kami tungkol sa ginagawa namin. Ano bang ginagawa nitong husgadong ito? Tuwan-tuwa kami kasi mailalahad namin sa inyo ang aming professional life. Anong nangyayari sa amin sa pang-araw-araw sa isang linggo. At ito naman alam na ninyo, pero hindi alam ng greater public natin. Kaya for better communication, napakaganda nitong inyong pinasimulang ito.
Sa katunayan po, medyo doon ko po gusto ring patunguhin yung unang nabanggit ko kanina. Total, nabanggit na rin ninyo. At marami po ang nakikinig sa ating mga kababayan. At alam ninyo, napakaganda po na naririnig mismo sa inyo sa inyong mga justices. Ano? Kasi po, ang karaniwang kuro-kuro po ng taong bayan ngayon ay nagkaroon na ng kawalan ng tiwala, yung loss of confidence. Kasi alam naman po natin, ang rightly or wrongly, ang sinasabi ng taong bayan, yung lakaran sa huwes, ang corruption, paano po natin matitiyak o mabibigyan ng assurance ang taong bayan na kapag kayong naging Chief Justice ay magkakaroon ng isang genuine reform pagdating po sa ganitong problema?
Meron po akong isang plan of action diyan. Ngunit bago ko puntahan yung aking plan of action, sabihin ko po sa inyo na yung graft and corruption is not purely a judiciary problem. It's a societal problem. May cultural problem po tayo riyan sa mga pakiusap. Yan po ang graft and corruption na walang bayad. Pero graft and corruption din yan. Meron po namang may graft and corruption na may bayad na sinasabi nila. Naririnig ko pero wala naman akong first-hand evidence. Ngayon, yan pong graft and corruption na may bayad, there are three parties. One, the client. Number two, the lawyer. And number three, the court official. Bibigyan po ng pera ng kliyente yung abogado o mag-a-advance ang abogado, saka ibibigay sa court official. Yan po ang standard. Pero may isang special na graft and corruption na hindi naririnig ng publiko. Yung pong graft and corruption na dadalawa ang parties. Ang parties po lamang ay yung kliyente at yung abogado. Wala po yung court official. Yung abogado pumunta lang sa kanyang kliyente, pagkatapos manalo ng kaso, at ang sabi, abay, kailangan natin bigyan si fiscal, si judge, si justice. Maniwala po kayo, nangyayari talaga yan. Naririnig kong nangyayari. Kaya dyan, ito sinasabi ko sa inyo, masakit ang loob ko. Kasi lahat po ito napapataw sa judiciary. Hindi po naman, hindi ganong kasama ang miyembro ng judiciary. Napakarami pong malinis na malinis. Sasabihin ko rin po sa inyo, meron talaga naman pilyo. Hindi po ako tumatanggi. Hindi ko lang makuhaan ng ebidensya. Pero kung kami po ay makakakuha ng ebidensya, tutuluyan namin yan. Katulad ng ginawa ko nung ako'y nasa Department of Labor. Yung NLRC, sabi ko sa NLRC, nung ako'y umupo as secretary, sabi ko sa kanila, wala na tayong kapilyuhan dito. Kung ano mang ginawa nyo nung nakaraan, bago ako dumating, I will not proceed against you. Tabula rasa tayo. Pero pamula ngayon, huwag kayong gagawa ng kalokohan. Nakahuli po ako na isa. Entrapment, isang commissioner. Out. Yan po at yan ang gagawin natin dito sa Adikatura. Kaya nga po, sabi ko, ang kailangan natin dito, kooperasyon sa executive, sa legislative. Katulad po rito sa panghuhuli ng graft and corruption. Kaya po ba namin o kami na lamang? Naririnig namin, walang ebidensya. Kung halimbawa po, ako'y nakikipag-usap kay Secretary Laila de Lima at sabihin ko sa kanya, Madam Secretary, there is probable cause na may nangyayari rito sa isang kaso na ito. Pwede bang tulungan mo kami? Pumunta tayo sa huwes at humingi tayo ng kaukulang order at ang NBI na nasa ilalim mo ay kami ay tulungan. Yan po ang cooperation na sinasabi ko. Kung mangyayari po yan, makakahuli po tayo. Yan po naman palagay ko, kinakailangan lamang na ang ating publiko, I think the public also needs to be assured, only assured, that there are no shenanigans occurring within the judiciary. Hindi na po yan maglalagay. Bakit yan maglalagay kung hindi naman kinakailangan? So, iyan po, pagtutulungan ng lahat. The public, the media, and the different branches of government. Yan po ang aking napapaloob doon sa aking plano. Pero unang-una po sa aking plano ay yung whistle-blowing rule. I was the head of a committee that formulated this whistle-blowing rule. Unfortunately, hindi po na-approve. Hanggang binawi ko na. At sabi ko, tingnan nga natin uli. Kasi hindi ma-approve. May mga kumukontra. But hindi po natatakot sila sa whistle-blowing rule. The problem was turf. Turf problem. Merong opisinang mawawala ng poder sa pag-iimbestiga ng kaso. Yan ang pinag-aawayan. Kung ako'y Chief Justice, abay wala ng away, poder ko na ito. Ang whistle-blowing sa akin pupunta. O edi mag-object kayo sa Chief Justice kung gusto ninyo. Yan po ang ano. Pero tingnan ninyo itong whistle-blowing rule. By telephone, by email, basta mapoprobahan nating totoo na nagre-report, iimbestigahin po natin under the rule of confidentiality. Napakalaki po ng impact nito sa judiciary. At tinitiyak ko sa inyo na kung hindi man natin mapapaalis agad-agad, maraming matatakot dyan sa mga pilyo.
Opo, yun na po sana yung last question ko, kaya lang may nag-text. Siguro nakikinig po siya. Siguro ito na yung last question ko. Sabi niya, is it graft and corruption if a person asks a judge or justice to decide on what is right? Thank you po.
Wala po namang hinihinging masama, so hindi po naman siguro graft and corruption yan. Pero kahit yan kung maaari, huwag na nating gawin. Paila ng motion for early resolution. At ito po ang suggestion ko kay Senior Justice Carpio tungkol sa mga sulat. Ang dami po sumusulat sa amin At ang sulat ay problema na. Alam po ninyo, sulat ni Estelito Mendoza ay problema. Ang sabi ko, let us have a uniform action on these letters. Ibalik natin. Sabihin natin, whatever you want, ask your lawyer to file the proper pleading. Huwag yung sulat na ganyan. Kasi, ang totoo, hindi po unfair. Unfair po. Hindi patas na ano. So, kung ako po yung magiging Chief Justice, isa yan sa mga gagawin ko. Pag may susulat, meron na akong form letter. Ask your lawyer to submit the proper pleading.
Salamat po. Thank you, Justice Peralta.
Justice Lagman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Justice Brion, good afternoon. I heard you mentioning about a dream court. A dream court. You mentioned earlier about your dream court. Okay. If you will become the next Chief Justice, how are you going to make your dream court a reality?
I think if I become Chief Justice,
Yes.
I will hit the ground running in making this a reality.
Yes.
Number one, I have a plan of action. For example, on the matter of delay, I have a plan of action. On the matter of graft and corruption, I have a plan of action. For PILJA, for JBC, for the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, I have a plan of action laid out. It's a question of prioritization, Madam. Katulad po nitong case backlog natin. The problem is almost in crisis proportions, if I may look at it that way. Because my researchers tell me that this is a problem that date back to the 1980s. Nakikita ko po yung mga sinusulat ni Justice Vicente Mendoza na ito na ang problema. Hanggang ngayon, ito pa ang problema. Tapos, lumalaki pa ng lumalaki ang problema. Ngayon, marami po namang solusyon. Doon sa aking pakikinig kahapon, narinig ko si Justice Hermosissima. Ine-explain niya kung paano yung mga courts na hindi na natin, walang mga aplikante, sana maililipat natin sa Maynila. But that needs legislation. Isa pong kailangan din siguro ng legislation, can we have or establish hybrid courts? Hybrid courts.
Hybrid? Okay.
Yung pong katulad po sa Tawi-Tawi na walang husgado. Ang kaso po naman, may by jurisdiction.
Yes.
So may MTC, may RTC. Gumawa tayo ng hybrid courts. Pwede sa RTC, pwede sa MTC. Ipasok natin doon. So legislation po yan. Ang hindi po nangangailangan ng legislation, yung po tinatawag kong substantial claims court. In contrast with small claims court. Itong substantial claims court, para pong susubukan na rin natin yung procedures sa small claims court. Pero hanggang 1 milyon lamang.
Okay.
Hanggang 1,000,000 ang ano. So RTC po ang mag-handle yan. And then ito po naman ay mapapalawig natin. So pagdating ng panahon, yung pong sinasabi ni Justice Abad na simplified procedures in our second level courts, yan po, it will be all over. Pero unti-unti ang ating approach. Ang pinagdidiferensyahan po namin ni Justice Abad a matter of approach. Ayoko pong bigla. Sabi ko, dahan-dahan, dahan-dahan. Because the impact of a failure would be terrible on the justice system. So, tama na yun sa small claims court. Nasubukan natin. Subukan naman natin substantial claims court. Tapos mayroon na rin po tayong sa IP, intracorporate dispute. Lumalawig na po Lumalawig na.
Big claims.
Kaya pagdating ng panahon, sanay na ang ating mga abogado, ang ating mga litigants. So, iyan po ang aking plano. Meron po akong individual plan of action na gagawin.
That's very good, Justice Brion. Now, I also heard you saying about the participation of the court in nation building. Can you further elucidate that? How can the court participate in nation building?
The court participates in nation building because law is the glue. The Constitution is the glue that binds this nation together. And the court is the guardian of the Constitution through the rule of law. And it is the court who provides stability to this society because disputes are inevitable among individuals or between government departments and offices. It is this court, the judiciary, that provides the solutions and stability. And to my mind, Your Honor, this is a very significant contribution to nation building. Hindi po mabubuo ang ating bansa kung ang mga components nito ay nag-aaway-away at walang referee na nagre-resolve ng mga away.
So that is it. Okay, Justice. Now, high esteem and respect of the courts guarantees the stability of the administration of justice in our country. If you become the next Chief Justice, how do you intend to promote high esteem and respect for the courts?
High esteem and respect for the courts
Yes.
is not something that we can achieve through the media.
Okay, yes.
High esteem
I
and
agree
respect
with you.
for the court are available only through substantive delivery
Yes.
of our functions. What is the function of the judiciary? It's essentially adjudication.
Yes.
So to my mind, the clogging of the dockets is a problem of crisis proportions. Diyan tayo nakikita ng mga publiko natin.
Yes.
Ang kaso nila nagtatagal ng 5-10 taon. Ay talagang hindi po maniniwala sa atin kung ganyan ang nakikita sa atin. Kaya dapat ating isinusulong yan ang isinusulong. Marami pong problema mayroon po tayong systemic problem galing sa Constitution, ang iba nitong ating mga systemic problems. Yung pong Article 8, Section 1, yung expanded jurisdiction ng Korte Suprema, napakalaking problema po yan kung inyong tutuusin, sapagkat maganda nga na grave abuse of discretion in any portion of the government. But let us remember that provision was intended to address only a specific need, yung political question doctrine. But the way this was implemented, lahat na lang sinesersurary.
Yes.
Interlocutory order sa ibaba is a certiorari. So this is something that we should remedy to the extent, right now, to the extent that we don't need a constitutional amendment. Yan pong yung pong ating kakulangan sa korte. Ang budget po, ako'y natutuwang sabihin sa inyo na ang budget ng judiciary ay pinaunlakan po ng Pangulong Aquino, yung ating request for additional budget. Sa ngayon po, ang budget natin ay 1.21% na of the national budget. It used to be 0.8% only.
Yes.
So may 0.4 increase po yan. So ito po siguro ay ating mapapaglaruan upang mapasulong yung ating mga problema.
Okay, Justice. Also, one thing that I asked Justice about this morning is about the delay in the disposition of all cases in the Supreme Court. And he admitted that indeed there are old cases which are still pending with the court. If you will be the Chief Justice, how can you remedy that situation?
Nakakatakot po yung mga old cases na yan. Buksan lamang ninyo, hihikain na kayo.
What are we going to do if you will not open it?
Inaaktuhan na po ng husgado yan.
Okay.
At ito po sa ngayon, si Senior Justice Antonio Carpio, may mga ginagawa na pong may mga panukalang hakbangin na inaprubaho na po ng NBank. Katulad ng pagkuha ng additional lawyers. Tapos katulad ng magkakaroon po kami ng isang pool of lawyers, and the oldest cases will be given to that pool. And those who are old enough in the court are harking back to the time of Chief Justice Fernan. Ito daw po ay ginawa na rin nung panahon ni Chief Justice Fernan, yung mga backlog of cases ay in-address with great success. Kaya sabi namin, bakit hindi natin tingnan yung ehemplo ni Chief Justice Fernan at yung ating magagaya, applicable pa, gawin natin, and then magpasakit tayo ng ulo, tingnan natin kung ano pang ating maidadagdag. Kaya umaakto na po kami riyan.
Okay. One more thing, Justice. Now, what to you is accountability? What is your thoughts about accountability? How can you promote accountability in the judiciary?
Accountability is a constitutional mandate.
Yes.
It's not a question of promoting accountability.
But that's
It's a question of complying.
Yeah, that's on paper.
Yes.
But we have not complied with that.
And I would like to tell our public and you, Madam, that we have been taking steps along these lines individually and as a court. I say individually because the day after the decision of a day after or two after the decision in the impeachment trial,
Yes.
I found Ombudsman Chit Morales and I told her, sabi ko, padadala ko na sa iyo yung waiver ko, bahala ka na. So even before, and Justice Villarama also did this. There are some others I may not know of. But even before the court made a formal waiver of their disclosures, and then significant steps on individual basis have been already taken. Pero talaga pong kailangan natin na yan. Yung transparency is a need that is whose day has come. Kaya dapat po seryosohin na natin. Lamang, ang transparency po is not a magic word.
Yeah.
Na lahat po ay ipakikita na lamang natin sa publiko, sa madla. Sapagkat we have many concerns to think of. Concern for the nation, concern for the court, and concern for our individual selves. You know, Madam, if we, in the past, well, this happened before our time, did not want to disclose our salens, I understand that this was because of concern for the independence of the court. Naririnig na rin po sa lower court judges noon pa na they will be harassed if their salens will be disclosed to everyone. Ngayon nga po, meron kaming disclosure policy. Sabi namin to everyone. Alam po ba niyo kung nangyayari naman ngayon? Hindi naman media lang ang nanghihingi. Ang dami po naming request sa mga estudyante. Pag-aaralan daw nila, assignment daw nila sa kanilang profesor. Sabi ko, ano bang gagawin natin dito? So, I think we ended up putting up guidelines and we are making the disclosures as needed if this would be necessary for the preparation of academic papers. So, yan po these are my thoughts on the matter.
So my last question, Justice Brion. As a Chief Justice, if you will be fortunate to be appointed, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered, well, perhaps people can say, well, Art Brion was here and he did his bit for the nation and for the judiciary. But sa kabuuan po, sana po ay yung aking sinabi kaninang aking vision for the court na participant in nation building, an independent one at that, our emphasis on ethics and values and fairness, balance, decisional stability, lahat po makuha natin. Yan po naman sa tingin ko, kung hindi man siyerto porsyento nating makukuha, ay sa malaking kabuuan po, kaya natin. It's a question of focus and will. And with focus and will, we can achieve almost anything. Nakapagpapayat nga po ako sa focus and will.
Yes. You're so trim now. In a matter of months, is it that? The last time I saw you, you're so big.
I lost, well, I don't mind telling the public, with the guidance of my doctors, hindi ko na lang sasabihin kung sino ang doktor ko, baka naman pinag-a-advertise ko. I lost 60 pounds in 10 months.
10 months? Wow.
10 months. And I ascribe that to the focus and will to slim down.
Okay. So on that note, I don't have any more questions for Justice Brion. Good luck, Justice.
Justice Hermosissima, sir.
Good afternoon, Justice Brion. Your reputation for integrity and competence has preceded you, sir. It will be remembered that Justice Brion applied for the Court of Appeals. When I read the PDS that he filed, I told my colleagues, no, you include him in the list for applicants for the Supreme Court. Justice, there is one concern that I have, especially when I was still a member of the court. Cases which are not necessarily decided unbanked are decided by a division of the Supreme Court. The decision of the ponente in that division is a decision of the whole court. There are objections to this manner of deciding cases because it is felt that the decision of a division is not reflective of the sentiment of the whole court. What are your thoughts on this matter? Would you agree that all cases be decided en banc instead of by division?
I agree with you, Your Honor. Cases in the Supreme Court should be decided en banc. And for that purpose, I will propose to the court that we restructure ourselves into divisions of three. So that there will be 5 divisions. And these 5 divisions will accept all new petitions for what we call our filtration process, for purposes of completion, and for purposes of a report and recommendation to the en banc. So, cases will move fast. There are only three members to a division, and there will be dismissals of cases, and there will be reports and recommendations, and this will all go to the en banc for the en banc's consideration. I say that I will propose this to the court because this is quite a radical proposal, because I don't think we have ever constituted ourselves as divisions of 3. But this is one of the answers to our clogging of cases. Things will move faster. And this is not at all a problem, because what will happen then is that the en banc will simply concern itself with deliberating on the finished reports of justices. I think in one en banc sitting, 20 to 30 cases would be a possibility. Of course, there will be some problem cases that will be called again and again. But these are the major cases that even with our present structures are also called again. But this will serve, Your Honor, the problem that we have about conflicting decisions.
Yes.
Alam po ninyo,
Good point.
may umaga, mauunang magbasa sa akin ang misis ko. At sasabihin ng misis ko, dinesisyon na pala ninyo itong kaso na ito. Sabi ko, hindi ko alam kung ano yan. Hindi ko po alam sapagkat ibang dibisyon ang nag-decide ng kaso. Yung po ba mababasa ko pa? Hindi ko na ba mababasa yun. May desisyon na. Sa dami ng aming kaso, with what I propose, all cases will pass through the en banc. So lahat en banc decisions na. So cases hopefully will not only move faster, there will be a uniformity of rulings aside from stability of the tenor of the rulings in our cases. If we have to change principles of law, then that would be the opportunity also, because everybody will be contributing. So, yan po ang sagot ko sa inyo, Honorable Justice.
Thank you very much. Now, there's something that has bugged me. Considering the unmitigated proliferation of deaths caused by violence of judges, journalists, and other private individuals, are you in favor of a revival of the death penalty law? Do you believe that the extreme penalty of death is a deterrent to the commission of such crimes as murder, parricide, rape, kidnapping?
I am really neutral to the idea, Your Honor. There are 4 pros and cons against the idea.
Precisely.
It seems to me that
the
the death penalty is not at all a deterrence, considering the delay that occurs before the death penalty is ever implemented. Kung yan pong death penalty, katulad nung ginagawa nila sa China, na mabilis, ikaw pa ang bibili ng bala, siguro deterrent yan. But in our system of laws, that is unknown. Ang kinatatakot ko po lamang sa death penalty, kami po ay maaring magkamali. I have been reading an article about innocents in the United States, not here, who are now languishing in the death cells of their penitentiaries. Sabi ko, malaki din namang kargo ng konsyensya natin kung magkakamali tayo. Pwedeng magkamali. Pag tinimbang ko po ito, para sa akin po, bagamat yung mga guilty ng heinous crimes, talaga pong dapat naman sigurong malipol na dito sa ating society, I would go for the lesser reclusion perpetua without possibility of parole.
Well, consider, Mr. Justice, that quite recently the Federal Supreme Court of the United States upheld the constitutionality of the death penalty. This in spite of the opposition of American bishops to the imposition of the penalty of death. But yet 4 Catholics in the court voted in favor of the imposition of the penalty of death.
I have no problem about the constitutionality of the death penalty. I think it is constitutional. Pero yung sinasabi ko po sa inyo is based on my system of values. In case of doubt, in case of the possibility of mistakes, siguro po doon sa area na yon, pwedeng tingnan natin kung anong ating magagawa. Pero kung pwede po tayong magkamali, sana po reclusion perpetua na lamang.
Now, on another matter, Mr. Justice Brion, I think this is really important, and I do believe that you must have taken a stand on this when this was brought up to the Supreme Court. You see, this City of Manila Ordinance Number 8027 reclassified parts of Pandacan from industrial to commercial zones, thus mandating Pilipinas Shell, Chevron, and Petron to transfer their operations elsewhere. Yet, the Manila City Council subsequently approved Ordinance Number 7177, which allowed the big 3 oil firms to continue operating the oil depot in spite of the... Now, those who want the transfer argue that the oil depot poses a danger to the life and limb and the safety and health of the Manila residents. Not only Manila, but also the suburbs. It might cause a disaster and devastation of Manila and suburbs. A devastation which can cause something more serious than Typhoon Sindong. But yet, those who favor the retention say that this will increase the price of gasoline because 1/2 of the of the gasoline consumed in the country comes from this. And if you transfer this, it will cost a great amount of money. And then it will deprive the about 36,000 employees of their jobs, and especially the city of Manila will lose the revenue of 96 million pesos. So, what is your stand now, and what will be your stand when you become Chief Justice?
Alam po niyo, Justice, until 10 months ago, ako po ay sa Pandacan nakatira.
Yeah.
Sa ilalim po ng isang tangke roon, malapit kami sa tangke. Kaya ako po ay ipinanganak sa Pandacan. Ako po ay lumipat na sa Pandacan pa rin naman ako sumisimba, at yung mga dati kong kapitbahay ay siya ko pa rin mga kasamahan ngayon. Ay kaya nung dumating po yan sa Korte Suprema, ako po ay nag-inhibit. At sabi ko, malaki po ang problema ko eh. Ang aking pong kaisipan ay sinasabi na tanggalin na natin yan. A depot has no place in the middle of the city.
In the middle of the city.
It has become an anachronism. Pero meron po akong interest na pang sarili. Kasi nandun po bahay ko eh. Ayon po sa ating rules of court, in that situation, I must inhibit. And I did inhibit. And I will again inhibit. Kaya ipagpaumanhin po ninyo, yun po ang kapasiyahan ko ron.
On that note, thank you very much.
Secretary Mosli.
Justice Brion, magandang hapon po. 2 days ago, His Excellency the President delivered the State of the Nation address before the Filipino people live on television. You are an aspirant for the position of Chief Justice. If you were Chief Justice, how would you summarize the state of the judiciary right now?
I would say this. The judiciary right now is an institution that is perceived to be problematic. Talaga pong meron kaming problema. Hindi po itinatanggihan. Meron po kaming problema sa number of our cases. There is also that perception of graft and corruption. Tapos po, kabi-kabila na sinasabing wala na raw pong tiwala ang bayan. But these are the negatives. I can also count the positives, and there are so many positives. Among the positives are the honest judges and officials who are laboring out there all over the country. Ayoko po namang sabihin sila ay parte ng isang masamang hudikatura. Kahit sa Supreme Court na naman po, ay sabi nila ang Supreme Court daw ay masama ang naging effect nitong impeachment trial. Hindi po ako naniniwala. Hindi po ako naniniwala dyan. Para pong nangyari sa Supreme Court ng impeachment trial ay isang tao na pinalo sa ulo. Sapagkat ang ulo po namin ay si former Chief Justice Renato Corona. Pag kayo po ay pinalo sa ulo, pwedeng kayo ay maliyo, pwedeng kayo ay matumba. Huwag lamang kayong mamamatay, kayo ay buhay. At panahon po lamang ang kinakailangan. Na yan namang panahong yan, sa palagay ko ngayon, ay lumipas na. Buhay na naman po ang ating Korte Suprema. At sasabihin ko, ang Korte Suprema natin ay malakas. Kailangan po lamang natin ng isang malakas ding liderato upang ang Korte Suprema ay makapunta kung saan ang dapat niyang talagang puntahan. Yan po ang sinasabi ko na aking mga plans of action, and sinasabi ko rin na kayo mga nasa JBC, including the Chief Justice, when and if you are granted the power of performance appraisal, performance assessment, you should be able also to assess the performance of the Chief Justice. Yan po, pagdating ng panahon, magiging very powerful tool po para ang ating judikatura ay mapausod. Pero ang ating pong Supreme Court ay naliyo po lamang out of shock, tulad nga po ng isang pinalo sa ulo. Pero ngayon po ay buhay na naman. At normal po ang aming operasyon. Wala po lamang Chief Justice. Magkaroon po lamang, tuloy-tuloy na yan. Tuloy-tuloy. At pagkat ang ating po namang Supreme Court ay isang buong-buo. We are a collegial court. We have different beliefs. We come from different backgrounds. We have different strengths and weaknesses. But if you sum up those strengths, kami po ay isang malakas na husgado. Katulad po kanina, narinig nyo si Justice Abad. What is his strength? His strength is in his trial advocacy. Ano po yan practitioner na napakatagal na panahon. If I were Chief Justice, I will harness his potentials, his capability in the areas that he wants to act on. Patutulungan ko po yan kay Justice Bersamin at kay Justice Peralta. Justice Mendoza. Ito po ang mga veteranong, hindi po ito, pero veteranong mga justices natin tungkol sa trials. Yung pong ethics and values, sinong pagbibigyan natin yan? Si Justice Bambit Mendoza. Meron po kaming seminarista. Seminarista, talagang simpleng-simpleng tao na pag pinagtiwalaan mo ng ganyan, gagawin ang kanyang Iba't iba. Perhaps no one justice would have a monopoly of all the attributes that a perfect, ideal magistrate should have. Pero meron po kaming kanya-kanyang dalang kakayahan. Katulad ko po, ako po lamang siguro sa husgado ngayon, ang galing na sa buong gobyerno ng Pilipinas. Ako po ay galing sa legislatura, galing po ako sa executive, ngayon ako ay nasa judiciary. Kaya malakas po akong sabihin, malakas ang loob na ako na sabihin ko na there should be cooperation among the departments of government, because I know that cooperation is achievable. If I were Chief Justice, I will have no qualms about approaching Congressman Tupas. Sabihin ko sa kanya, Congressman, ito ang pangangailangan namin ng mga husgado. Ito ang mga pagbabagong kailangan natin sa husgado. Wala pong problema. There is nothing wrong in doing that. Because while we are independent, our absolute independence relates to our decisional functions. Hindi po ibig sabihin, hindi na kami makikikooperate sa ibang departamento ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas. No man is an island. Pag nawala po ang isa dyan, may problema po ang ating bansa. At ang unang-una po, ang ating iisipin ay yung ating bansa. Sapagkat ang bansa po natin iisa. Masasabi ko po yan sapagkat ako ay nag-immigrate. I spent 7 years in Canada. And I would say these were 7 very lonely years. Wala akong bansa. Hindi ako umuwi ng Pilipinas. Hindi pa tapos ang aking mga anak. Eh natatakot ako na kapag ako ay umuwi, baka hindi na ako bumalik doon. Kaya ako po, I could relate to the OFWs who were the clienteles of the Department of Labor because I could place myself in their positions. So yan po ang aming strengths and weaknesses. Eh, yan po ay pag pinagsama-sama yung strengths na yan, malakas na husgado po ang nasa sa atin. Yun po ang state of the judiciary ngayon. Meron po kaming kakulangan, hindi po itinatanggi. Ang sinasabi po namin, tulungan ninyo kami para yung aming kakulangan ay mapunuan.
Thank you po, Justice. Your Honor, moving on, if I may, I'd like to ask you what you think of 2 very basic concepts in law. One is judicial independence. The other is judicial accountability. Do you think that these concepts are complementary? Are they to you exclusive? Or do they, in your own opinion, competing? May I solicit your views on this?
In my mind, these are not competing